Is anyone else slightly concerned about Jaylen Duren's developmental path? We're going to talk about that as well as the Pistons' victory over the Hornets on today's episode.
Passing lane, Sky's a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves it.
Welcome back to Pistons Intellect. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. And if you're feeling so kind, please hit that subscribe button. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Jaylen Durant's development and my questions there, as well as the Pistons' victory over the Hornets. But as I mentioned off the top of the show, in recent weeks, particularly since the trade, there's some questions I now have, and I guess concerns creeping in about what we are seeing from Jaylen Durant in the past couple of weeks. And I want to just open the show by showing you a clip from the Pistons game against Charlotte today, which you probably all saw if you watched the game, but I want to just lead the show off with this. So this clip here, Jaylen Durant cuts, and as you can see, he gets the ball right the teeth of defense. But if you look here just before, as he catches it, he has a wide open Boyan. And look, that's fine. That's fine. He missed him. It's frustrating. But that right there, that air ball turnaround, this jump shot is something I'm really beginning to get worried about. And I'm just going to show the clip one more time because it's fine to miss the open man in Boyan, but why this clip concerns me so much is because I feel like in the past couple of weeks, Jaylen Durant's development is starting to remind me of Andre Drummond. And that's because coming into the league, they were both physical specimens, both like 6'10", 6'11", can jump out of the gym, freakish athletes for their size, could handle it a little bit. Duren probably a bit more skillful, but Andre certainly always had those guard flashes. And we've seen how that story played out, which path Andre went down. And the reason that clip, like I said, concerns me so much is because it's kind of reminds me and shows me just where Jaylen Durant's head is at right now with his offensive game. And the fact he's so, like, he caught that ball and the second he knew he couldn't drive to the rim, he was going to post up and shoot that jumper. And why that is a concern for me and why I'm bringing up this right now. Some people might think, Jack, he's 19, 20 years old. Let him shoot. The Pistons suck. Like, let him develop that jumper. But I just see that as bad process. Like, Jaylen Durant shot a few mid-ranges, I believe, at the college level with Memphis, but it was never a huge part of his game. And we saw it in the summer league. It didn't look great. And in recent weeks, he's started jacking up those shots. And the problem I have with it, on top of everything I've just spoken about, is I just think it's, yes, the Pistons are bad, but I don't understand developing that part of his game right now. Like, I get some people have said to me when I've tweeted about this, like, well, he needs to have a jumper to play alongside Asar and make the core four fit. But maybe, like, I get that argument, but I think his jumper is so far away from being ready to shoot in game that it's just something he shouldn't be developing a season and a half into his NBA career. And the reason I'm comparing him to Andre Drummond is because Andre Drummond was a guy, like I mentioned, him and Duren have a very similar profile physically, and coming into the NBA, they were both, like I said, physical specimens, but the big knock on them was their motor. And in the past couple of weeks, I feel like Jaylen Durant's lack of a motor has been evident. And I feel like his defensive issues in terms of his positioning, his pick and roll defense, his lack of rim protection eerily remind me of Andre Drummond. They have all the physical talent in the world, but for some reason it feels like Duren, and I know this happened with Andre clearly, for some reason, the development and the way they are played on the floor and the way Jaylen Durant's playing, it seems to be significantly focused on how he can help this team offensively. When, in my opinion, if Jaylen Durant is going to get to the best of his abilities with this Detroit team and young core, it's going to be because he becomes elite defensively. And I think for me, I've been guilty of posting the box scores and the counting stats and hyping Jalen up from that standpoint because, like Andre Drummond, with their physical abilities, they can step on the floor and near a double-double. And if they have a good night where they block some shots, you look at the stats, you think, oh, 15, 12, couple of assists, 3 blocks, maybe a steal. Like, holy crap, this guy's dominating. And whilst when you put up stats like that, I truly believe you are putting in effort and you are making impact in the game. But you can also have plenty of defensive lapses that cost your team. And I think in tonight's game, the Pistons, they won. And I promise I'm going to be positive after this, but this has been on my mind for a few days and I haven't done a video in almost a week. So forgive me for opening a little bit negative. But Duren, for much of the game, apart from the last 4 minutes where he came up with some really crucial plays, Nick Richards took Jaylen Durant and made him look just at times lackluster. Nick Richards, the Hornets center, finishes 21 points, 10 boards, 5 offensive, 9 of 13 from the field. And there were times he killed Duren in the pick and roll. Duren was out of position in drop coverage. And yes, some of that's on the guard, but it happens far too much for my liking where Jaylen Duren's just in no man's land in drop. And he gives his man a wide open dunk and he doesn't fully commit to the ball handler. He just gets caught out of position. And then there's other times where Richards just outran him down the floor. And those are the ones that really, really, I guess, frustrate me as a fan because Jaylen Durant is one of the most athletic bigs in the league. He can run up and down the floor. He's obviously can jump out of the gym. He's huge. He's got massive shoulders. Like, it's very rare you should see him get out muscled. And to see Nick Richards outrunning him tonight multiple times just disappointed me. And sometimes it looks like if Jalen doesn't have things going offensively of late, now it's starting to sort of feed into a lack of effort. And that, once again, just reminds me of Andre Drummond. And for those that don't know, I started following this team as an Andre Drummond fan. So trust me when I say I watched an unhealthy amount of Andre Drummond games, and ever since he came into the league, like I know Andre Drummond, how his moods would affect how he plays and how him not getting touches affected his defense and how missing shots affected his defense and communication and overall effort. And I'm just starting to see a little bit of that in Jalen, and that concerns me a little bit. And these jump shots now, Monte actually said they want to, let Jalen expand his game. And I'm all for him putting the ball on the deck. He made a really nice drive tonight, got an M1 from the top of the key. I don't mind that. I'm not all in on turnaround jumpers out of the post. That, I have not seen Jaylen Durant do that efficiently at any level of basketball. I have not seen him do that efficiently in any game. In the summer league, it didn't look right. But at least you can go, okay, that's the time to try it. I don't think his jump shot is NBA ready. Like, I just think that is, every time he shoots that shot, the Pistons are just absolutely wasting the possession. Like, that might sound harsh, but I just think it's an absolute waste of possession. And as you saw in that clip, he misses a wide open ball at Bogdanovic, who is, I would think it's fair to just say he's a top 5 shooter in the NBA. Like, so the opportunity cost there is you're getting a Jaylen Durant turnaround jumper, which would have to be one of the worst shots in the league, and you're giving up a wide open 3 to Bojan. And the overall thing there, another thing that disappoints me is I feel like the Jaylen Durant at the start of this season and last season that wasn't focused on jump shots, he makes that passing read to Bojan because he's more aware of Bojan being there. He's not looking for a jumper and having that already premeditated in his head like he did on that possession. And that's the concern for me, because now you're starting to go away from his playmaking, which is one of his unique skills, and that will help him fit with the core of Asar, Cade, and Ivy. If those 4 are to stay together and be, effective on the floor together, I feel like Durant's playmaking is a huge part of that. And yes, of course, if he woke up and had the 35% 3-point shot, that would alleviate a ton of stuff. but I don't think we've seen that, and I don't think he's proven he can do that. So just my concerns there with Duren. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Am I out of line? Because I feel like I've been, I spoke about in the offseason, Jaylen Durant's defense for me is everything. Because if you have an offensive, a center like Duren, who's going to be they're going to get the large portion of their baskets on offense, cleaning up offensive putbacks, pick and roll, dunks, lobs. They're going to be like that and not be able to kind of be that offensive hub and like a 20-point per game scorer from the same position. You need to be really good defensively, and I haven't seen that. And it feels like it's getting a little bit worse, if anything. So something to monitor. I just want to end it by saying that his potential is still sky high. I am not out on Jaylen Durant. There are just some things I'm seeing that, to be honest, I'm not liking the way they're trending. And it's part of the reason why I guess this kind of gets into the game tonight. Those bad habits that Jaylen Durant might be developing are why I don't want to see this team completely like getting blown out. I like seeing tonight how the vets and the Muscala, Boyan, Monte Morris. I honestly almost consider Stewart a vet now. Like, that's why these young guys need to be surrounded by players that have won in this league and been in this league for a while, because that stuff isn't as acceptable when you're in the game and can win. So, yeah, as I said, let me know your thoughts on Jaylen Durant, but I'm going to get quickly here to Monte Morris, who finally made his much-awaited debut tonight for his home team in a way. The Flint native in Monte Morris finished with 7 points, 3 assists, 0 turnovers, and 3 or 4 from the field in only 11 minutes. He was on a minutes restriction tonight. And yeah, his first 4 minutes, I think he had 5 points, 2 assists or something like that in like 3 minutes in the first half. Didn't miss a shot. And was just everything. I feel like those that were somewhat excited about the Monte Morris trade, he kind of showed you everything just in that 3-minute patch of how he can help this team. And like beyond kind of just hitting a couple of shots, hitting a three, making a nice pull-up jumper, just the way he moves the ball, it's so crisp. I tweeted this out. There's something about the way he just moves the ball at the right time and at like the exact right moment. Like, and he zips passes. He never throws a lackluster pass. And that's why he's, I think he has the first or second best assist to turnover ratio in the NBA right now, or for his career, because never wastes a pass. He cherishes that ball like his life's on it. He passes it zip. Like, he had this one pass. It was like just a standstill, no look to the corner to Kevin Knox, who missed the three, but just like, wow, that is how you pass the ball. And it was just a reminder of what good point guard play looks like. And that's not even a knock against Ivy and, Cade and the other guards the Pistons have. But, man, he just – I'm not trying to hype him up to be an all-star or something ridiculous. But if you watch the game, I just feel like there's a calmness and a really – a calmness as a fan when he has the ball that you just know the Pistons are going to get a decent shot. Or if he's the one taking the shot, you're all right with it, because he's a career 40% shooter, nearly 50% from the field as a 6-foot guard. That's ridiculous efficiency. So I think, look, 11 minutes, I would say he's going to be on this kind of restricted 10 to 15 minutes a game for the next couple, maybe even the next 5 to 10 games. I think they'll slowly ramp that up. He has had multiple injuries since the preseason, so I suspect they're going to be very cautious with him. But yeah, just in what has been such a bleak season, and at times we probably never thought we were going to see Monte Morris suit up for Detroit. I think just to see him get 11 minutes tonight and look as good as he did would be certainly refreshing for fans, because this team has been devoid of veterans for much of the season outside of Bogey and Alec Burks here and there that can help this team win and provide the young guys with support. So to have Morris come back in whilst the team has guys like Mike Muscala who are really helping. And Danilo Gallinari didn't get minutes tonight, but in the last game, he just provided 10 to 12 minutes of really good offense. And I think you're starting to see why veterans are so important, because it just feels like whenever the Pistons have two vets on the floor, they're a much more competitive team as opposed to when they've just got 4 rookie scale guys out there running around with Boyan. Those days and seeing those lineups, which unfortunately another negative tonight was kind of the Pistons closed it out, but at times it just, I tweeted out and said I would rather Monte Morris in for the last 3 minutes over someone like Killian Hayes. But I guess with Monte's injury, you couldn't put him in. But some of these lineups, the Pistons win tonight, so I'm not going to get on Monte's case too much for this game. But all I will say, if Cade Cunningham is back and healthy next game, in my opinion, the guard rotation, Ivy, Katie are starters, Monte Morris back up when he's fully healthy, and you mix in some Sassa minutes. And then you have Alec Burks, obviously, but he's more of a 2-3 right now. So that's all I'll say. I know there's going to be people in the comments who think I'm a Killian hater and think I favor Jaden Ivey, but the simple fact of the matter is Jaden Ivey's 5th overall pick 1.5 years ago. Killian Hayes was picked number 7 4 years ago. And I think we know what Killian is. I don't think we know what Jaden Ivey is. So I have more leash for him to grow and develop than I do for Killian Hayes. That's just a simple fact of the matter. And I think Killian is by no means not an NBA player. I think he could go, I really think this is been spoken about at length. I think he can go to somewhere like the Spurs and really help. I just think with the Pistons rotation and where they've invested draft picks of late, question that if you like, but I don't really see a fit for Killian Hayes when all the guards are healthy. I kind of get when you play him when Cade's out, because Jaden Ivey as your sole point guard probably isn't the best thing right now, just because his handle's improved, but sometimes he just holds the ball for a little too long, gets himself into trouble trying to ISO. I think he's at his best when he's, moving it and not so much trying to ISO, trying to attack it. I'd rather him in pick and roll and, moving the ball around than just ISOing. But nonetheless, that's my Killian Ivey spiel, because I know some people in the comments have questioned me on that. But I think the large takeaway and the last thing I'll talk about is just Stu plus the vets have just been has stood out to me in the last few games. Since the trade, the Pistons are now 2-3. And since they brought in Mike Muscala and Gallinari, like I said, they're 2-3. Isaiah Stewart has now been back for, I believe, he's been back for 4 games now. He returned in the Washington game. He's been back for 5 games, but he's scored in double figures in each of his past 5. He's rebounding the ball at around 7 a game. He had a career high 5 blocks last game. He's shooting the ball a little bit better from 3-point line. His finishing on the rim's gotten better. And I'm really loving him when he's at the 5, whether that's when he's playing backup 5 minutes or he's closing games at the 5 in the last 5 minutes. I think what we are seeing is Isaiah Stewart at the 5 and a spacing 4 like Mike Muscala. Or you can interchange those two. But a true shooter next to Stu, I think, especially against bench lineups, is honestly quite lethal. Just when Stu's able to roll into space, I think has just opened his game up a lot more, clearly, because he's not the most athletic guy. So he's going to struggle to jump over people and dunk lobs. But I think him on the defensive end, he's being huge. He's the Pistons' best defender. I don't think there's any question about that. And for a guy that, look, I said when he was starting before his injury, I think he should be coming off the bench. But for a guy that was kind of struggling there for a little bit, I feel like that was more a product of the position he's been put in, forced to play the 4. I think in recent weeks, in the past 5 games, I think we've seen like he as a backup 5, or when he's just playing at the 5, especially if he's not on like a Jokic or one of those ridiculously offensive talented centers, like when he goes against, rim running centers, I think he's been awesome at the 5, and I've liked what I've seen. And I think even when you've had the trio of Muscala, Stew, and Asar, that's netted really good results. Because although Stew's not an elite 3-point shooter, he still provides an element of spacing that obviously Jaylen Durant can't provide. So you can, when you have someone like Muscala who's going to direct defense, you can play Stew and Asar next to each other. And like Asar tonight, I think he finished only with like the 7 points, but I thought he made some key defensive stops. Yeah, so he finished with 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals in 27 minutes. Normally, if he's playing 27 minutes, he's giving you double-digit points, close to double-digit rebounds, and those steals and blocks. But not the biggest stat sheet stuffing performance. But I really like some of the things he did tonight. He's getting really good at slipping as a screener and diving to the rim. And tonight he was rewarded with one of those. Or maybe 2 of his buckets came off like him slipping to the rim off pick and roll opportunity. But he's getting really good at, just slipping the screen and using his speed and athleticism to get open and find buckets like that. And I think, like, while the box score doesn't, jump out, I thought he played a really good game tonight. I was really impressed. He had a couple of really key defensive stops down the stretch. I actually really like how Monte Williams down the stretch was subbing him in for defense and putting Bogey in for offense. Where that got a bit tricky was sometimes Boyan was off for key offensive possessions, so that's not ideal. But I don't mind that line of thinking of going offense for defense, because one of the knocks on Monte has been his stubbornness just to keep the same lineup out there. So I like getting Asar those reps on defense in crunch time. That's great for his development, and I think he rewarded Monte's trust in him. And I think putting more vets around Asar, vets that can shoot, been huge. I was looking up kind of the net rating stuff, and I'm not going to read out the numbers yet because the sample size is still so small in the past 3 games. But what I will say is when you have Asar on the floor with either Gallinari, Mike Muscala, and Isaiah Stewart, the numbers are ridiculously good. The sample size is still too small, though, for me to come on here and blurt out a heap of numbers and go crazy. But in a small window, Asar plus some form of spacing, just a semblance of spacing, just pretty much anything but Jaylen Durant, Killian Hayes, and any other non-shooters, it works. And you get to see kind of him dive into the rim in space, and as well, when he's actually able to do things on offense that aren't and that don't involve him just standing in the corner and killing your team spacing, when he's actually able to roam in around off ball and find cutting lanes and rolling to the rim opportunities, you get the awesome defense on the other end, especially for a rookie. So, it's the past 5 games have been much more enjoyable to watch. Marcus Sasser as well, shout out to him, had a huge game against the Bucks last game with 23. Tonight, he only got the 12 minutes. Obviously, Monte Morris is going to impact that, but he had 5 points and a couple of assists. Thought that was fine from him. That from a rookie, I'm happy with that production. But it feels like this team's starting to get more competitive, and just for them to, no matter how you feel about some of Monte's decisions down the stretch, I won't knock you if you're still so frustrated. I was frustrated at times, but I think them just being able to hold on and get this win, that's pretty big for them mentally. Because how many times we watch this team be up by 2 to 8 points with 5 minutes to go and just either get blown out by 10, 15, 20 points, or just not be able to close it. And to be honest, the Jaden Ivey sitting in for much of the 3rd and 4th, I think I was okay with it tonight, because I think he started off really well. He had a really good first quarter and okay second quarter, but he had some costly turnovers, and just even when it's he only had 2 turnovers, but there's just some possessions where I thought he held the ball for too long and ended with a bad shot, or just didn't really set the offense up great. I don't think I'm fine with him seeing off tonight. I think clearly didn't really have it in the second half. And I want to commend him, though, because him and Monte Morris were the 2 guys up supporting their teammates as the Pistons were making that run in the fourth and ultimately able to win the game. They were up cheering. So it doesn't seem to be hurting Jaden's spirit too much. I'm sure he's not happy about not being out there, but I just think seeing him engaged and active on the bench, cheering on his teammates, I think, I think he probably realized he's not having the best game tonight, and team's going to win. That's all that matters. That's what you want to see from a guy like Jaylen. So, in what was probably one of a down game for him, I think just to see him up and about was really cool with Monte Morris, who you could just tell was so happy to be out there. So I think that's going to do it for today's show. Really, really curious to hear your guys' thoughts on Jaylen Durant and where you're at with his development. Because, as I said at the top of the show, it's starting to remind me of the Andre Drummond kind of first scoring option, jacking up jumpers, and just not necessarily prioritizing the right things developmentally. So very, very eager to hear your thoughts on that. I think with these shows going forward, I'm still going to try and do game recaps as much as possible, but I'd prefer probably to leave it unless it's an amazing game and so much happens. I'm probably just going to try and jump on here every couple of games, and as opposed to every game, just because I want to mix it up and have some things to talk about more, as well as hopefully we can get some trade news soon. So until my next show, as always, go Pistons.